Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Rachmaninoff conductors. Now, Rachmaninoff is an interesting case. He's kind of like the English Elgar, in that he has a huge reputation compared to the actual amount of music that he wrote. His orchestral works consist, as you probably know, of the 3 symphonies, 4 piano concertos, the Paganini Rhapsody, the symphonic dances, the bells if you do some choral music, and then a handful of shorter orchestral pieces like the Isle of the Dead and so forth. It's not a lot. So it's not a lot to build a reputation on. And yet, some conductors have managed to do absolutely outstanding work in Rachmaninoff, and because his music is so popular, they have acquired something of a reputation for performing Rachmaninoff, and that's a great thing. It's just another peg to hang your hat on if you're a classical musician looking to make a reputation for yourself. So, who are the 5 greatest Rachmaninoff conductors? Well, number 1, Eugene Ormandy and the Philadelphia Orchestra. Actually, the Philadelphia Orchestra should get its own ranking as the Rachmaninoff Orchestra. But, we'll talk about that some other time. Ormandy knew Rachmaninoff. He premiered the symphonic dances. He conducted Rachmaninoff his whole career. He made several recordings of some of the symphonies. He was one of the first to do the first symphony when it was reconstituted. His best recording of the second symphony is the one with Rachmaninoff's approved cuts, but it's still a gorgeous performance. I mean, it's wonderful. He did the concertos over and over and over with everybody in the universe, and he was absolutely splendid. He really was. He had a total sympathy and identification with that music, and his performances are great. It's that simple. Next, Kirill Kondrashin. Now, here's an interesting case because Kondrashin did not record the symphonies, but he did the symphonic dances and the bells for Melodia, a classic, iconic, legendary recording, and he was quite active accompanying the concertos. He did them with Ashkenazy, he did them with Van Cliburn, so, he was out there and around doing lots of Rachmaninoff. It just wasn't necessarily as the star of the show. But, we can't minimize the importance of being a really fine conductor in doing the concertos and doing the accompaniments, because the big concertos that get played most, the second and the third, and the Paganini Rhapsody to an extent as well, these are pieces as much for the orchestra as they are for the pianist. They are real, genuine meetings of equals. And you need to have a really fine conductor, I think, in the accompanying role in order to really carry off the 2 big concertos with the necessary musical depth and interest and color and panache, all of those things. So Kondrashin was definitely one of those. Also from the Russian school, Yevgeny Svetlanov. Now, he did a couple of Rachmaninoff cycles, but the last one he did that was recorded by Pony Canyon, actually, in Japan, was just unbelievable and fabulous digital sound when he was at the end of his career, and he just let it all go crazy. It's just big and Russian and enormously dynamic, louder than hell in places. Really outstanding Rachmaninoff performances. And I don't know how available they still are. I think they're around somewhere. But they were recorded for the Japanese label originally, and then they were released as part of that huge Svetlanov edition on Melodia. And they're really, really outstanding. In the end of his career, Svetlanov was sort of the grand old man of Russian music and of that style of I don't want to call it screaming vulgarity, but that's kind of what it was. This sort of take no prisoners, loud, ballsy, moderate tempos, heavy duty, sort of what people sort of thought Soviet Russia was. And it was a style. And it worked awfully well in Rachmaninoff. My God, those performances are exciting. But you got to get the digital ones, not the previous analog ones, which aren't terrible, but they're also not that well recorded. And, the digital ones are the ones that are really special. Excuse me. Incredibly special. Next, Mariss Jansons. Now, Mariss Jansons doesn't usually get a lot of love from me because I find him to be rather ordinary most of the time. But he is a conductor who sort of grew up in the Mravinsky Leningrad school of Rachmaninoff playing, which is lean and mean, fast, rhythmically, really, really, really sharp and intense. And he did magnificent symphonies with the St. Petersburg Philharmonic, the Leningrad Philharmonic. He also did them in other places, and they're not nearly as good. The Russian orchestra had the necessary, weight of tone, which combined with Jansons' generally fleet tempos and really sharp rhythmic impetus is just very, very impressive. I mean, his symphonic dances are a real case in point, where at the very end, when the chant thing comes in from the Vespers, do 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 da ba 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 da ba bam ba 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 da da. I mean, listen to the way Jansons tears into it. It's really, really thrilling, and his piano concertos were also very good. So he was definitely a Rachmaninoff guy who's worth considering. His EMI cycle of Rachmaninoff is absolutely one of the best. It's first class. And last, but certainly not least, Leonard Slatkin. He's amazing in Rachmaninoff. I mean, he has a total identification with that music and that idiom. He's recorded 2 complete symphony cycles with other works appended as well, like the symphonic dances and things like that. The first, very well recorded for Vox in St. Louis when he was just starting out, and the second for Naxos in Detroit. And they're both superb, absolutely superb. The Vox recordings have a little bit less of an interventionist slant to them, but they're still very, very characterful and capable. The Detroit ones show the hand, I think, of a mature master conductor conducting the works that he really, really loves. He's one of the few conductors who has been able to do remakes which are not micromanaged to death. They still have those qualities of energy and excitement and flexibility that his earlier performances have, but with an additional touch of finesse, of care, of lingering over some particularly delicious details, but without ever checking the flow of the music, without ever drawing attention to itself as just irritating. They're splendid recordings, and he is really one of the great, great, great Rachmaninoff conductors. And those are the five greatest, absolutely greatest. You may have a few you want to add, and I would be happy to see who they are. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.